You are sitting on the couch, scrolling on your phone, when something moves in the corner of your eye. A spider is lowering itself from the lampshade on a single thread, maybe 10 centimeters from your face. The whole body reacts before a single thought arrives. The phone is in the air, half the couch left behind. The heart pounding, and a sound came out of you that nobody will ever mention again. Then the spider comes into focus. It is small, it is harmless. It is probably more afraid of you than you are of it. And yet, somewhere in the body, a switch flipped that you did not turn on. Here is the strange part. That switch has been in the family for a very long time, much longer than the family has existed. By the end of this video, you'll ever apologize for flinching at a spider again. That is a promise. Because the answer is hiding in places you would never expect. A lab where 6-month-old babies stare at images on a screen. A psychologist who wired people to electric shocks and watched their fear refuse to fade. A shortcut in the brain that fires faster than thoughts. And a predator that has been hunting primates for longer than primates have been primates. This is not a story about a phobia. It is a story about a program installed long before you were born that has kept your species alive for millions of years. Let's start with the weirdness, because it is worth sitting with. The thing most people are afraid of is, statistically, one of the least dangerous things in daily life. In the United States, snakes kill about 5 or 6 people a year. That is not a typo. 5 or 6. Lightning kills more people than that. Bees kill more people than that. Dogs kill more people than that. You are many times more likely to die in a car crash on the way to the grocery store than to get hurt by the spider currently living in your bathroom corner. And yet, when people list what they're afraid of, snakes and spiders sit near the very top, right up there with public speaking and death. The fear and the risk are completely out of proportion. That mismatch, that glorious irrationality, is the whole mystery. Why would a species evolve to fear a category of animals that barely ever hurts it? Here is the first answer, and it comes from a very young place. Back in 2008, psychologists Vanessa LoBue and Judy DeLoache ran a clever experiment at Rutgers. They showed adults and 3-year-old children a grid of images. Most of the images were pleasant, flowers, mushrooms, things like that. Hidden among them was a picture of a snake or a picture of a spider. The task was simple. Find the odd one out. The results were striking. Both the adults and the 3-year-olds found the snake faster than they found the flower. And they found the spider faster too. Not because the snake was brighter or the spider was bigger. The images had the same colors and the same sizes. The children found the threatening image before the safe one, over and over, even though they had no experience with either animal. How fast is fast? Adults could pick out the snake in about half a second. The children were slower, but they still beat their own times on the safe images. Every age group, every time. That is the first crack in the story that fear comes from learning. And before you say, sure, but 3-year-olds have already been around adults, they've already absorbed our fears. The next experiment cuts that off at the knees. David Rakison, a developmental psychologist, published a study in 2009 that tested babies who were only 6 to 7 months old. At that age, infants cannot walk, cannot talk, and have barely any life experience to learn from. Rakison sat them in front of a screen and showed them images of snakes, spiders, and other things. Then he measured where they looked and for how long. The babies stared longer at the snakes and the spiders than at the non-threatening images. Longer looks mean more attention, and more attention means the brain registered the image as something special. The effect was strongest in the girls. These were babies who had never been bitten, never warned, never seen a snake outside a book. And their eyes already knew. The fear is teat fully there yet. The babies weren't teat screaming, but the attention, the first step of the program, was already running. The attention effect doesn't stop at the eyes. Back in 2001, Arne Hunman and his colleagues ran a different version of this test. With adults and a lot more clutter on the screen, a snake hiding among a crowd of safe images seemed to pop right out of the display. No searching required. The eye found it on its own. And the same thing happens with memory. Show a person a page of pictures and ask later what was on it, and the snake is the image that stays. Flowers, blur. That is not a coincidence. That is the program doing paperwork. A brain that remembers exactly where the danger was is a brain that doesn't walk into it twice. Let S make sure we being precise here, because this matters. The science does not say babies are born afraid of snakes. It says they detect snakes faster and pay more attention to them, and that this head start makes the fear easier to learn later. Psychologists call this preparedness. The idea, developed most fully by Arne Fudman and Susan Minka in a landmark 2001 review, is that evolution pre-tuned the human brain to associate certain things with danger more easily than others. A person can learn to fear a snake in one bad experience, or even just by watching someone else flinch. Learning to fear a flower takes a lot more work. Think about the fear inventory people carry: snakes, spiders, heights. Maybe? Now ask yourself how many of them have ever actually hurt you. Almost none. That is the program talking. Ever wonder why some fears stick and others slide off? The brain is not a blank slate. It comes with some pages already earmarked, and snakes and spiders are on those pages, not because of anything they did to us, but because of what they did to our ancestors, for millions of years, long before our species existed. Here is the experiment that shows the program in action, and it is a little unsettling. Furman and his colleagues took people who were not afraid of snakes or spiders. No phobias, no history, nothing. They showed them images paired with a mild electric shock. Some people saw a snake paired with the shock. Others saw a harmless object paired with the same shock. Everyone learned the association quickly. That part is normal. Then came the important phase. The shocks stopped. The images kept showing. With the harmless object, the fear response faded within a few presentations. The brain figured out the danger was gone and moved on. With the snake, the fear response refused to fade. It lingered for many more presentations. Same shocks, same timing, same learning procedure. The only difference was the image. The brain treated the snake as if the danger was still real, long after the evidence said otherwise. That stubbornness is not a flaw. It is the whole point. A fear that fades fast is a fear that gets a person killed. A fear that hangs on keeps them alive. Why would evolution build that on purpose? Because the world that shaped the brain had snakes in it. Every time, the false alarm was cheaper than the missed one. Imagine being one of those subjects. You are sitting in a lab chair, electrodes on the fingers, and a screen starts showing pictures. The shock is a tingle, annoying but harmless. After a while, just the picture makes the palms sweat. Then the shocks stop. The harmless pictures stop mattering. The snake keeps making the palms sweat. For a long time, scientists have a name for that stubbornness. They call it resistance to extinction. Extinction sounds dramatic, but it just means the slow unlearning of a fear when the danger stops showing up. For most fears, the unlearning is quick. A week of safe encounters and the brain quietly files the fear away. For snakes, the file gets stuck. The reaction keeps coming back long after the evidence says the coast is clear. Here is the part that makes the design obvious. A fear that unlearns too fast gets a person killed. A fear that refuses to quit keeps them alive. The brain didn't make a mistake. It made a bet. So far, the world has kept paying it. But here is the part that really changes how you think about your own flinch. The fear does wait for the brain to decide. It fires first. When the eyes see a snake-like shape, the signal doesn't take the scenic route through the thinking parts of the cortex. It takes a shortcut. Visual information goes straight from the eyes to a small structure deep in the brain called the amygdala, which is basically the alarm center. And this path bypasses the areas where conscious thought happens. The alarm can ring before the thought. is that a snake even forms. The body recoils, and the conscious part of the mind catches up a fraction of a second later, already in the middle of a jump. Joseph Ledoux, the neuroscientist who mapped this pathway, called the fast route the low road, and the thinking route the high road. The low road wins every race. You can feel the version of this in daily life. A shape under the bed in a dark room. A stick that looks like a snake on a path. The body jumps, and the mind arrives late and says, "Oh, it is just a stick." That lateness is the low road doing its job. And this shortcut is not new. It is not even human. The amygdala sits deep in the brain, and some version of it exists in reptiles, birds, even fish. A lizard bolts from a shadow before it thinks. A bird dodges a shape before it identifies it. The wiring has been running since long before mammals existed, and it has been pointing at snakes for a very long time. Snakes were shaping brains long before there were humans to be afraid. Let me slow down and put someone in a specific moment, because the numbers don't do this justice. Imagine a forest path maybe 50,000 years ago, not a modern hiker, a version of a human with no phone, no shoes, and a very serious need to pay attention. The path is thick with leaves and the light is dappled, and the ground is doing that thing where every shadow looks like something. The ears are listening for the normal sounds, birds, wind, the rustle of feet. Then a branch moves. A long shape uncoils from the leaves not 2 meters ahead, and it moves the way only a snake moves, a single smooth wave with no legs and no paws. There is no time to think. There is only the jump, backward, before the thought arrives. The heart slams, the hands are up, and the body is already 3 meters away, and only then does the thinking brain catch up and say, "Snake." And the reason the jump came before the thought is the reason that human is alive to remember it. The ones who thought first, who stopped to process, who said, "Hold on, let me analyze the shape." They didn't make it. Their hesitation was the last thought they ever had. The alarm that feels so embarrassing at a party, the one that makes a person flinch at a twig on the sidewalk, is the exact same alarm that kept the line alive through every forest on Earth. Now, a reasonable question at this point. Okay, snakes are a real evolutionary story. But what about spiders? Spiders almost never killed our ancestors. A spider bite is painful, and some can make a person sick. But as predators go, they re-knot the thing that shaped the primate brain. The black widow and the brown recluse can hurt a person, but they re-shy and rarely bite. Our ancestors shared the savanna with scorpions and centipedes too, small fast things with many legs and a mean sting. So why do spiders trigger the same program? The leading answer is that spiders carry the same warning signs as snakes. They move fast, unpredictably, with many legs in a way that is hard for the visual system to track. They appear suddenly in small spaces, under rocks, in dark corners, exactly the places where a primate might reach a hand. Some researchers think spiders activate the same evolved alarm because they hit the same visual triggers. A compact body, a burst of fast movement, a shape that doesn't move the way prey or friendly animals move. The brain doesn't run a full taxonomic database on every small fast thing. It runs a pattern match. If it looks enough like danger, the alarm rings. We inherited a snake alarm, and spiders slip through the same keyhole. That is why a completely harmless spider can make the whole body do something embarrassing, while a tax bill that is objectively more dangerous sits on the table, doing nothing. Let us be fair to the other side for a moment, because the fear story has a counterpoint. Some people genuinely love snakes and spiders. Some people keep them as pets and find them beautiful, and plenty of cultures treat them as symbols of wisdom, power, or healing. The ancient Egyptians worshipped the cobra goddess Wadjet and painted her on their crowns. Australian Aboriginal traditions tell of the rainbow serpent, a giant snake that shaped rivers and mountains. The Hopi performed snake dances. In India, cobras still get offerings in temples. So the program is not destiny. It is a bias. A head start, not a guarantee. The preparedness model says the fear is easier to learn, not that everyone must learn it. Individual experience, culture, and temperament can override it. There are people raised around snakes who never develop the fear at all, and people who develop a fear of butterflies, which the brain treats as harmless, through pure experience. The default is a nudge, not a sentence, and understanding that should be a relief, because it means the fear people carry is not a personal failing. It is a factory setting shared by most of humanity, chosen by nobody. And while we on the subject of culture, here is the strangest proof that the alarm still works. People pay to be scared: horror movies, haunted houses, jump scare video games, an entire industry worth billions of dollars a year, built on triggering an alarm that evolution designed to save lives. Think about that for a second. A species that spent millions of years running from predators now spends its Friday nights paying to feel like one is in the room. People buy tickets for the exact feeling their ancestors would have traded almost anything to avoid. Fear might be the only emotion humans pay to feel on purpose. If that is not proof the program is still running, nothing is. There is something else hiding in this story, and it is the part nobody tells you. The same alarm that protects a person also makes them worse at judging risk. When a fear is prepared, when it fires fast and hangs on, it tends to drown out the quieter, more accurate threats. You spend real mental energy worrying about the spider in the corner, while the phone in a hand scrolls past at 60 miles an hour. The second helping of sugar. The ladder climbed without a second thought. Psychologists have a name for this pattern. Risk perception is not rational, it is emotional, and it is ancient. How did a species this smart end up afraid of the wrong things? Because the brain that evolved to dodge snakes was never designed to estimate modern risks. It was designed to survive a savanna, where a quick flinch meant living to see the next day. The same system that saved ancestors from predators now lets them scroll past statistics that should terrify them. The fear is old, the risks are new, and the mismatch between them is the price of running an ancient operating system on modern hardware. So let's talk about what this means for the next time it happens. Because there will be a next time. When you see the spider, when the flinch comes, don't scold. Don't whisper that you are being silly. The body is doing exactly what it evolved to do. And it is doing it in about 200 milliseconds, faster than any thought could possibly form. The fear is not a comment on character. It is a comment on ancestry. Every human who ever flinched at a snake, every primate who ever leaped away from a moving shape in the grass, is standing right behind you in that moment, doing the same jump. You are not weak for flinching. You are part of a lineage that has been flinching successfully for tens of millions of years. That is not a bug in a personality. There is one more layer, and it is the strangest one of all. The fear might be part of the reason anyone is here to watch this video at all. Think about what a prepared fear does to a species. It keeps members alert, it gets passed down through learning and genetics, and it creates a shared experience that humans have been talking about forever. Every campfire story about the snake in the dark, every myth about the spider in the cave, every folktale warning about the thing that bites, that is a species teaching itself, generation after generation, to keep the alarm switched on. The fear became a story, and the story kept the fear alive, and both of them kept the species alive. What does it mean that the same monster stories show up on every continent? It means the program is old enough to be a language. Humans are the product of a billion small alarms, and each one of them was a decision to stay alert just a little longer. The goosebumps from a horror movie are the same machinery borrowed and aimed at something that is real, because the machinery is old and can tell the difference. So here is the sentence this whole video has been building toward. You are not afraid of the spider. You are carrying an alarm that saved your ancestors' lives millions of years before you existed. That alarm made great-great-great-grandparents jump before they thought, and the ones who jumped are the ones who lived, and the ones who lived are the reason anyone has great-grandparents at all. The flinch isn't a flaw in the design. It is the design. It is a warning system so old that it predates the species, so fast that it beats thought, and so stubborn that it refuses to unlearn the one thing that kept the line alive, that a small, quick, moving thing in the dark might be the last thing anyone ever sees. So next time you are on the couch and a spider lowers itself from the lampshade, here is what you do. Feel the jump, feel the heart, and then, once the thinking brain catches up, say a small thank you. Thank you to the spider, which is doing nothing wrong and is probably just looking for a warm corner, and thank you to the alarm, which has been watching over the family since before families existed. Then gently escort the spider to the window or scream and throw a book at it. Whatever the family tradition is. Either way, you are not broken. You are just running the oldest software in the body, and it works. That is not fear. That is family history doing its job. And honestly, for a species that has survived every forest, every savanna, and every dark corner on Earth, a little jump at a harmless spider is a very small price to pay for the alarm that got you here.